Have you ever seen a man who looks like he carries the weight of the world in silence, while everyone else mocks him without knowing his story? Well, stay with me until the end, because what happened on this flight will leave you breathless, and you'll never look at quiet people the same way again. And before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because stories like this one deserve to be remembered. The airplane cabin hummed softly with the sound of overhead fans and muffled conversations, the type of atmosphere where businessmen felt at home and families tried to keep their children entertained. In the third row from the back, a quiet single dad named Daniel sat with his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, holding her small hand as she leaned her head against his shoulder. Daniel was in his late 30s, with kind brown eyes, neatly trimmed dark hair, and the kind of calm presence that often made him invisible in a crowd. His clothes were simple, faded jeans and a plain gray shirt, but he carried himself with a posture of quiet dignity. Lily was a fragile child, pale and delicate, with golden brown curls and wide eyes that betrayed both innocence and exhaustion. She was battling a rare illness that demanded constant care, and Daniel had sacrificed nearly everything to make sure she got the treatments she needed. Across the aisle sat a sharply dressed CEO named Richard Hale, in his mid-40s, known for his booming voice, expensive navy suit, and polished shoes that gleamed under the cabin lights. Richard thrived on being noticed, on being respected, and when his eyes fell on Daniel and his daughter, a smirk tugged at the corner of his lips. "Look at him," Richard muttered loudly to the woman beside him, a junior executive who idolized him. "Single dad, can't even afford proper clothes. Bringing a sick kid on a flight like this, pathetic. Probably using every dime he has just to play hero." His voice was sharp enough that Daniel could hear, but Daniel said nothing. He simply pulled Lily closer, brushing his hand gently through her hair as if the insult didn't exist. Richard laughed, leaning back arrogantly, and soon enough, a few other passengers caught on, whispering, exchanging glances, some even chuckling under their breath. But Daniel didn't look up. He never defended himself. The only thing he defended was Lily's peace, shielding her from the world's cruelty. Minutes passed, and the flight attendants began their rounds, offering drinks and snacks. When they reached Daniel's row, Lily stirred awake, whispering softly, "Daddy, can I have some juice?" Her voice was weak, but hopeful. Daniel smiled and nodded, ordering an orange juice with the last voucher he had saved for her, declining anything for himself. Richard, noticing this, couldn't resist sneering again. "Imagine being that broke. Can't even buy yourself a drink. What a sorry excuse for a man." The sting of his words filled the air, but Daniel kept his eyes on his daughter, thanking the attendant warmly as Lily sipped her juice with a tired smile. The plane cruised smoothly through clear skies, but suddenly, the calm atmosphere shifted. A sudden jolt shook the cabin, and the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing some unexpected turbulence. Please remain seated and fasten your seatbelts." Nervous laughter filled the cabin, but Richard leaned back confidently, smirking. "It's just a bump, people. Don't panic." He turned again toward Daniel, saying, "This is probably the scariest thing this poor man has faced. Bet he's never even been on a plane before." Daniel ignored him, his focus fully on Lily, whose breathing had grown shallow from the sudden fright. He stroked her back gently, whispering reassuring words. But the turbulence grew worse, the plane dipping sharply, gasps and cries filling the cabin. The captain's voice came again, this time sharper, urgent. "Is there a Daniel Hayes on board? Please press your call button immediately. This is urgent." A wave of silence rippled through the passengers as every head turned. Richard blinked in confusion, then scoffed. "Wait, him? They can't mean him." But Daniel calmly pressed his call button, raising his hand slightly. A flight attendant rushed to his side. "Sir, the captain needs you in the cockpit immediately. Please come quickly." Murmurs erupted throughout the cabin as Daniel gently kissed Lily's forehead, whispered something to her, and then stood, moving with a quiet confidence that no one had seen before. Even Richard sat frozen, his arrogance shaken for the first time. Who was this man, really? Why did the captain urgently need him? The quiet single dad who had been mocked moments ago was now walking toward the cockpit, and the entire plane watched with bated breath as the secret behind his silence was about to be revealed. The cabin was thick with tension, the kind that made every heartbeat echo louder than the engines. Passengers leaned into the aisles, whispering, speculating. Richard sat stiffly in his seat, the smirk gone, replaced with a flicker of unease. He couldn't understand why the captain would call for someone like Daniel, a man he had dismissed as a failure. In the cockpit, Daniel slipped inside, and the door shut behind him. For a long moment, no one knew what was happening. Then, the intercom crackled again, but this time it wasn't the captain's voice, it was Daniel's, steady, calm, and authoritative. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Daniel Hayes speaking. I am a former Air Force pilot, and I've been asked to assist due to a critical systems failure. Please remain calm and trust that we are working to ensure your safety." Gasps broke out across the cabin. A woman covered her mouth in shock. A man whispered, "He was a pilot?" Richard felt his throat tighten, shame burning his face. The man he had mocked for being poor, for being quiet, was the one saving them all. Inside the cockpit, Daniel's hands moved with practiced precision, working alongside the captain to stabilize the aircraft. His calm voice guided the crew, his knowledge bridging the gap between chaos and control. Years of service, years of sacrifice, suddenly, everything he had given up for his daughter and his country shone through. Back in the cabin, Lily sat with her small hands clasped, whispering a prayer for her daddy. She wasn't afraid. She knew he would protect her, just as he always had. Richard, meanwhile, felt a crushing weight settle over him. For the first time in years, he was speechless. His arrogance dissolved into raw guilt, and he couldn't stop staring at the little girl who trusted her father more than the world. Minutes dragged like hours, the turbulence shaking the aircraft violently. Then suddenly, the plane leveled out, the engines humming steadily again. A collective sigh of relief swept through the cabin as Daniel's voice returned over the intercom. "We've stabilized the systems. The danger has passed. We'll be landing safely soon. Thank you for your cooperation." Applause erupted, cheers echoing through the cabin. Some passengers even had tears in their eyes. And in the midst of it all, Richard sat silently, his heart heavy with regret. When Daniel finally emerged from the cockpit, walking back to his seat, people reached out to shake his hand, to thank him. But he only smiled humbly, nodding, his focus solely on returning to Lily. She looked up at him with wide, proud eyes and whispered, "I knew you'd save us, Daddy." Daniel kissed her forehead, whispering, "Always." As the plane descended safely toward the runway, Richard couldn't resist any longer. He leaned across the aisle, his voice trembling. "Mr. Hayes. I owe you an apology. I judged you, mocked you, and yet you're the reason I'm alive right now. You're the bravest man I've ever seen." Daniel looked at him, his expression calm but firm. "Don't judge people by what they seem, Richard. Everyone carries battles you can't see. Remember that." Richard lowered his gaze, ashamed, but forever changed. And when the plane touched down safely, the passengers erupted in another wave of applause, grateful beyond words. Daniel simply gathered his daughter, whispering softly to her, and walked off the plane, unnoticed except by those who now truly understood him. A quiet man, a single father, a hero hidden in plain sight. And friends, that is why you should never underestimate the silent ones. They may just be the ones holding the sky together when it threatens to fall. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because stories like Daniel's deserve to be shared with the world.